Hello, everyone. Today we're going to discuss Israel and Palestinian conflicts. This is for Life Orientation Grade 9. The history between Israel and Palestine is very dense and religion-oriented. It displays colonization, occupation, and resistance against colonization. We can see from the picture here that Palestine was originally a country in the Middle East that has been slowly conquered by Israeli colonizers by military force and arms. We will discuss a general overview of conflicts that had a big impact on this colonization. We won't discuss every uh, pinpoint or every big notion of the history, but if you have uh, any questions or would like to know more in depth about the history of Israel and Palestine, then I can also do a lesson on that. But let's jump into the conflicts. So first, what is Palestine? Palestine is a Middle Eastern country that borders Egypt, Jordan, Syria, and Lebanon. It was under control of various empires throughout the centuries, such as Assyrians, Persians, Greeks, Romans, and eventually the Ottoman Empire in 1517. The earliest known ancestors of today's Palestinians are the Canaanites, who were sophisticated city dwellers who arrived in the region from approximately 3000 BC onwards. The Canaanites had trading links with Africa, Asia, and Europe. Ports including Gaza saw spices and luxury goods passing through their docks across the Mediterranean to major cities around the ancient world. The word Palestine derives from the Greek word Philistinia or Philistines. The Egyptian, Assyrian, and Hebrew languages also had similar sounding words to describe the region or its people. Judaism, Christianity, and Islam are strongly tied to the region and trace its origins to the land over the past few thousand years. Following the 1918 fall of the Ottoman Empire during World War I, Palestine typically referred to the region between the Mediterranean Sea and the Jordan River. So after the fall of the Ottoman Empire in 1917, British Foreign Secretary Arthur James Balfour wrote a letter to express the support for an establishment for a Jewish home in Palestine. It became known as the Balfour Declaration. This was included in the Mandate for Palestine. It was a British mandate for Palestine that was drawn up in 1920 and went into effect in 1923. It formalized British rule over parts of the Mediterranean and gave Britain the responsibility of creating a Jewish national homeland in the region due to the rise of Zionism. So we will talk about the rise of Zionism now. Oh, not now, in the next few slides, sorry. But this is the 1917 pre-mandate Palestine. Um, and on October 31st, 1917, British forces conquered Palestine from the Ottoman Turks, ending 1400 years of Islamic rule over the region. But before the British mandate in Palestine, Jews made up around 6% of total population. This was due to Jewish and many other religions having a specific ties to the region. So there were Palestinian Jews that were already there. So World War I ends, Ottoman Empire ended rule, Britain took over Palestine until 1947, 48-ish. So we'll talk about Zionism now. So I want to make it clear that Palestine is a nationality or a country of origin, and that has many historical aspects that make it important. So many Islamic, Christian, and Judaism religions. So they all lived in Palestine at one point or time, or were indigenous to it, if they were, of course, already there due to the history throughout the centuries. So Zionism grew through grew due to the growth of anti-Semitism faced by Jewish people in Europe in the late 19th century. Modern Zionism was established by Theodor Herzl in 1897. He was a Jewish journalist and political activist from Austria. He believed the Jewish population couldn't survive without a nation of its own, and after World War II, many Jewish people faced oppression under Nazi rule, and 6 million were killed in Europe during the Holocaust. Years before the Holocaust, thousands of European Jews fled to Palestine or other regions to escape hostility. After the Holocaust, Zionist leaders actively pushed for a more independent Jewish state. In 1948, British-occupied Palestine left Palestinians with 22% of their land, which was overseen by Jordan and Egypt, while Israel was given 78% of the land. So basically, in sum, Zionism is a European white supremacist ideology that focused on creating a homeland by massacring, displacing, and killing hundreds of thousands of Palestinian natives to make room for the Jewish majority land. And this would happen through the what's called the Nakba, known as the catastrophe, referring to the ethnic cleansing of Palestine and near the total destruction of Palestinian society in 1948 on May 15. On this day, Israel was created through a violent process that forced expulsion of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians from their homeland to establish a Jewish majority state. Between 1947 and 49, at least 750,000 Palestinians were made refugees, and Zionist forces destroyed about 530 villages, cities, killing about 15,000 Palestinians and more than 70 massacres. So on the Six-Day War, it was in 1967, war broke out between Israel and a combination of Egypt, Syria, and Jordan. This drastically changed the landscape of Palestine, with Israel capturing the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and Gaza Strip. Following the war, Gaza Strip and the West Bank became occupied Israeli territories, leading to Hammeritan circumstances from then on. And it also led to a rise in Palestinian nationalism. So they then controlled what came in and what came out of the West Bank and Gaza. So they had limited access to clean water and food and other resources such as soap. So that was most of the humanitarian circumstances, and we'll talk about more. So this is the First and Second Lebanon War. In 1982, Israel invaded Lebanon and got rid of Palestinian Liberation Organization. This group declared all Arab citizens living in Palestine up to 1947 to be called Palestinians. After this attack, the PLO relocated to Tripoli in June of 1982. The Second Lebanon War, Israel went to war with Hezbollah, a Shiite Islamic military group in Lebanon in 2006. The United Nations brokered a ceasefire. So the first Palestinian Intifada, which is Arabic for resistance or uprising. The Israeli occupation of Gaza and the West Bank led to 1987 Palestinian uprising. Israel reacted by killing and deporting Palestinian residents, closing up universities, and making mass arrests. By December 1987, a full-scale uprising had broken out in the Gaza Strip. It continued for 5 years. According to Israeli Information Center for Human Rights in the occupied territories, 1,124 Palestinians lost their lives in the first Intifada, and some 16,000 were in prison, and many were routinely tortured. Fewer than 50 Israeli citizens were killed, and a peace agreement was signed stating Israel had a right to exist. So the Hamas wars. Hamas is a Sunni Islamic group Islamic military group that assumed Palestinian power in 2007. They fight for the end of Israeli occupation of Palestine. Israel has been in repeated violence with Hamas since then. Um, so 15 years under blockage. Um, Gaza, Israel's land, sea, and air blockage has trapped more than 2 million people inside Gaza Strip since 2007. No portion of Gaza's society or economy has been left untouched. So there's 2 million people. Um, the 45% unemployment rate and 64%, especially in rural housings, are food insecure. It's a big population in a very dense area. So there's 4 military assaults on Gaza, 2008, 2012, 2014, and 2021. So this is current times before October 7th. Before October 7th, there was still repeated violence between Israeli citizens and Palestinian people. That still take place today. Lands are divided, but some are claimed by both. An example is Jerusalem. Jerusalem is very sacred to both due to the various of different religion origins, stories that come from Jerusalem. Israel does not recognize Palestine as a state, but over 135 UN members do. And the United States is allies with Israel, which includes aid and money that's sent to them. In this picture, there's a sign held by someone that says Jews for Palestinian freedom. This shows us that Zionism is not an idea that every Jewish person holds. Zionism is again a ideology that was coined in the 1890s and was not a belief that every Jewish person had. But not every Zionist is Jewish, as well as not every Jewish person is a Zionist. So we'll talk about October 7th, current times. There's currently been an 84 genocide on the Gaza Strip. I use the word genocide here because of Israel's nonstop bombing on Palestinian civilians. Israel has stated that their goal is just to get rid of Hamas. But what we are seeing from the media, as well, primary sources such as Palestinian Press and Al Jazeera, is that this is not the case, and that they are also targeting and attacking civilians as well as children and women. Um, so Israel has been continuous bombing on Gaza Strip due to an attack Hamas started on October 7th. They said Hamas has stated that this attack was in response to decades of oppression and occupation, and that they want an end to the occupation. This attack is still ongoing, and around 1,200 Israelis were killed, and around 21,000 plus Palestinians in the Gaza Strip have been killed as of December 29, 2023. This has not been updated for today. But in the West Bank, at least 316 Palestinians have been killed. So Israel has been attacking residential units, educational facilities, places of worship, and 26 of 35 out of 35 hospitals are not functioning. 102 ambulances have been damaged, and 11 bakeries have also been destroyed. There is a 2.3 million population in the Gaza Strip, and about half of them are children, with about half population in refugee camps. So to sum up this lesson of the conflicts, you might be asking, why do Jewish people feel connected to Palestine? Well, as I stated earlier, they have a belief that the land was promised to them by God and that Abraham's descendants would create a great nation for them. The word Israel came from Abraham's great grandson Jacob, who was renamed Israel by Hebrew God in the Bible. King David ruled the region around 1000 BC, and his son King Solomon built the first holy temple in Jerusalem. In about 937 BC, the area was divided into the two kingdoms, Israel in the north and Judah in the south. Around 722 BC, Assyrians invaded and destroyed the northern kingdom of Israel. In 568 BC, Babylonians conquered Jerusalem and destroyed the first temple, which was replaced by a second temple in 516 BC. For the next several centuries, the land was conquered and ruled by various groups, including Persians, Greeks, Romans, Egyptians, and etc. This information I got from the Hebrew Bible, but that is why they feel connected to this area, and why Zionism was coined as a term. But in an excellent scholarly research article, it states that the Zionist project was forging a link between the contemporary Jewish community and the land of Palestine, was a project of extraordinary remaking of language, of place, and relation to it, and of selves and identities. So what she is saying here, the professor is saying that in Zionism, really linked a community that already had their own ways of living to the land of Palestine, which was remaking of the land, basically, and expulsion of people and stripping it of its native names and traditions. So this is the sum up of the lesson on the conflicts or wars between the two. So I have questions: who are Israelis, who are Palestinians? What occurred during the Nakba of 1948? When was the first Intifada? And this is an opinionated question, but do you believe in a two-stage solution or land bag for Palestinian people? So this sums the lesson. And if you want a more in-depth lesson on their history of Israel and Palestine, more in-depth, then let me know, and you can send me email with any questions that you might have. Thank you for listening in.